Welcome to our November 2018 customer webinar. Today, Christine Masters, Director of Product Management, and Product Managers Bill Pracht and Susan Bell will highlight recent advancements you need to know about. I'm Cherry Wolf, Marketing Specialist for TownNews. The presentation will take about 30 minutes and a Q&A will follow. At any point, you can type a question into the chat box, but we'll wait to answer them at the end. Today's webinar is being recorded and will be available early next week. Christine?
So to get started here really quickly, what we're going to be talking about today is just the new things that have been available in the last couple of months from Blocks. This includes new programs or new opportunities within programs, as well as software features, as well as front-end features. So there's a lot of different things going on. We have a couple of things to cover, revenue opportunities, new blocks and design options that we're going to be showing, some items, a new kind of refreshed design for our OTT products that Susan's going to talk about, a couple of new efficiency things and Blocks Go improvements, as well as speed and security enhancements, which we're going to talk about as well. So we have tons going on and a bunch of exciting stuff to talk about. So for the first thing, we have several different new revenue opportunities that are available, and Phil is going to talk about them.
Great, thank you. Yeah, for business directories, we recently released a couple improvements, specifically new search criteria. This is a faceted search experience now for business directory. This greatly improves the user interaction with your search, with your business directory. Of course, for any existing business directory customer, you might have already noticed that along the right rail, you'll begin seeing additional fielded data, specifically categories and perhaps flags that are already applied to businesses. But each of these are now going to be available all on that left-hand rail and in desktop specifically, but in mobile are going to be hidden under a new refine button. This is not unlike what we've already kind of scaled out to classifieds and other vertical pages, where it allows the user to kind of refine their search as they're currently on the business directory search results page to find exactly what it is that they're looking for. And in addition to that fielded data that we currently have, we are also now branching out into restaurant data. So any existing business in your business directory that has a restaurant or food-like category already assigned to it will now have a new tab and a new data available to them. So they can now configure if they wanted to add, let's say, price range or food type or features, if they, let's say, like daily specials, game room, Wi-Fi. All of these are fields that they can now apply to their business directory listings themselves, or as an admin, of course, you can apply this directly to their business as well. This is a great opportunity to help position your directory and branch off just beyond what the search experience is, but also create a new dining guide, let's say, full of all kinds of businesses that you want to go and target those restaurants specifically in your area for. So again, this new restaurant data and the search criteria are both combined, kind of create this compelling dining guide experience that you want to perhaps launch in your area if this is a suitable place. An Insticator integration. This is Insticator is a content engagement platform that uses customizable content to boost visitor engagement rates. Basically, what they are is a new paid recommendations advertisement that you can kind of place on your site. But what it is specifically is a new polls contest and quizzes widget that's going to appear on your right rail that has two tag-along ads below and above it that you can earn additional revenue on. It's simply clicking a button that enables Insticator on your site, and where it appears is along the right rail below every other ad except for, let's say, a sticky ad position that you might have already. It would appear above that, and the sticky ad would, of course, take over that right rail. But something to note, I think that as part of this, the revenue share as part of this is paid out based on what you currently have as part of your value added terms of your agreement. On average, customers who have enabled this are earning about $300 extra per month. So to keep that in mind, all you have to do is simply enable this in advertising under your page, in your page customizations under advertising. You just enable Insticator, and you can start hopefully earning additional revenue, but just with a simple click of a button under that. In addition, ads and infinity scroll, we applied the infinity scroll, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with, to the card grid block and editorial. There is now a new DSP advertising section where you can now place an ad in there And this what will happen, in addition to that DFP code, what you would place in there is also an add interval. So depending on the columns that you currently have for your card grid, you can place an add interval at, let's say, 4, and after every 4 articles that are going to appear, there's going to be a new advertising spot, likely 300 by 250. That's what's going to be most common in those add intervals. But now you can start monetizing your infinity scroll even easier by now applying the DFP add to your card grid in infinity scroll mode. So something to think about. A lot of this stuff that I'm going to be covering and that I've covered here so far has documentation and help at TownNews.com. All of that information has coinciding kind of announcements and highlights to kind of explain these features even more so. In addition, and lastly, our creative templates that we recently launched. These are new and ideas to help give your local advertisers even more branding and additional revenue opportunities, of course, for you, but give them a more featuredness on your site. Specifically, we have 3 new creative templates: the reveal ad, which is a full screen and width ad above all page content that will scroll under the content as the user scrolls down the page. The pencil and wallpaper ads, or PAW ads that we've kind of called them. They're multi-purpose templates. For the pencil, that's that thin ad at the top, as well as the wallpaper ads along the right and left rails that you'll see in desktop. And interstitial ads, these are ads that display between pages as you're kind of going through. The best part about this is that all of this stuff is a lot easier to implement because we've created plug and play how to get started in all of this in our help site. So simply type in creative templates in our help site, and you'll find all the code necessary to plug into Google Ad Manager to begin loading in these creative templates. These are, again, nice and useful ways to kind of target your local advertisers in nice and creative ways to kind of get them on board with new advertisements beyond the standard 300 by 250 or kind of 728 by 90 ads. So begin thinking more creatively about what you can do for your local advertisers, and these are a few of our different options. Again, just help TownNews and type in creative templates or ads in Infinity Scroll or Instacator, and you'll get more information about each and every one of these things. Christine?
Thank you. Yeah, just a couple of really quick things. One is that I know that there have been several people who have wanted to move from Block's Ad Manager to Google Ad Manager, which it's very confusing that they stole our names, but but yeah. So for those of you who are who have been interested in the past to use Google Ad Manager, which used to be DFP, there are some of those new creative types now allow you to move to Google Ad Manager and without losing your expandable ads or your pencil ads, your wallpaper ads, which some people stay on Block's Ad Manager for that purpose. So that's a nice thing there. And
we do have more coming as well.
Yeah. So and again, so that there have been some people who wanted to kind of move, but they remained behind for that reason. So we do recommend that. There's a lot of features available in Google Ad Manager that you know, we don't offer and that we won't offer. So it's a very expensive and built out program. So and also the business directory. So if you have business directory already, how much does it cost to add this new stuff?
Yeah, it's built into the value add to business directory. So and this is we're servicing more of the categories to help users find exactly what it is they want. That was a goal of ours kind of from the beginning of business directory, is that there's not a whole lot of usage as far as the search results pages go, but we want to try to increase that as much as possible. And so we're trying to position the business directory not from a search standpoint, but also kind of how to position the directory to better serve you in your local community, like offering a dining guide. So by offering and combining faceted search with restaurant data, you're now looking at a way to kind of reposition your business directory to kind of go after these local advertisers in your area that meet a specific type of category. So
yeah, I know and I've talked to lots of places before where in that community they have a lot of restaurants or kind of unique restaurants, and even if you don't go through and kind of, you know, add data and enhance every single one, having some specific restaurant data in there for even, you know, 20 different restaurants would be amazing. So that's awesome. Really excited about that. All right, so a couple of new things we've added in terms of kind of new blocks and new features to use in terms of design options on your pages. that really help kind of with mobile presentation or to help increase engagement with users. The first one is a new block called the card modular summary or summary modular, I can't remember, but that creates, like I kind of did this design over here on the right-hand side. It's really interesting in that it part of the block itself allows you, one of the options it has is to create how many columns you would like your that particular block to show, and then you just kind of stack the block into either multiple regions or even one region, and then you can tell it where, like if you can see here that we've got a small kind of module here, and then a large story, and then a small one. You can choose if you want to have, you can alternate those, you can stack them all the same, you can say that I want the big one on the left, I want the big one on the middle, I want the big one on the right. And then you can kind of change up how the design looks. And the block itself will always make sure that they're the same height, and so it will cut them off at the same height, depending on what the options are you choose to show. And there's a bunch of different ways that you can crop the photos, that you can change the headline sizes on the large story versus the small stories, and then obviously it's got a very mobile-friendly. It really is designed to look best on mobile first. And it's very interesting. So a couple more really quick things about this in terms of how it's implemented in mobile. At the point where it goes down to a mobile size, the stories that are large stories stay large in one column, and the stories that are the smaller stories, like this story here or this story here, those will show as small cards on mobile, whereas the large ones will show as large cards. So it's a really great way, like in this particular layout here, where you could have, you know, large story, small ad, large story, small ad, that sort of thing. And it's a really interesting way to kind of create a very mobile-friendly layout. So that's something to look at. Again, that's a new block that is available, and that would be a great idea to just, you know, set up a test page and play around with different designs that you can build with that. And it should be, you should be able to do some really interesting things with that are very mobile-friendly. Another thing that we have launched recently, and you can see kind of an example of that here, which is something we call an overline. And this is now available in most of our content blocks, or the blocks that are kind of built to show either cards or summary blocks, things like that. And essentially it allows you to choose a little bit about the design of what the overline looks like. So you can choose like the color, and then if you want to have it kind of in a block and then have, you know, the text on a color block, you could build kind of a buttony overline in that way. And then it has several different icons you can choose from, and then you can choose to have what kind of icon you have available there. So this is just a really great feature to highlight, you know, different types of the purpose of a different type of block on your page. So if you had a specific block that was going to be updated throughout the day, or it was updated, you know, in the afternoon, or different things like that, you could say something like, you know, frequent updates or live updates, or you know, any of those types of things to give the end user some clues as to kind of a special behavior that's going on in that particular block. If you had something where you know, you were on site, or live reports, or any of those types of things, if you had a video, you could say, you know, video in there. So there's lots of different ways that you can kind of communicate to the end user that there's something special going on. And then, like I said, we have different blocks or different icons that can be used along with that overline that kind of match those different styles. So we have like fire and a phone and like a broadcast icon and the little clock icon. So there's different things that are kind of related to, you know, most frequently used icons in that area that you can actually add to that. So I think so again, that's another thing to kind of experiment with and look at, and it's a nice way to add some additional information to your blocks to let the end user kind of know what's going on. And another thing, and this just came out, I think, if I recall, last week, or might have been this week. But anyway, it's either just coming out or it's going to be coming out soon. We actually have changed our story tools on mobile. So if you recall, within the story, each story has like a Twitter button and a Facebook button and different kind of engagements and social buttons that the end users can employ to share with their friends, etc. One thing that we kind of tested out was we saw that the print button on mobile had particularly low engagement, that very few people were clicking on the print button. And, a lot of the times people will just use the print button within the browser, even on mobile, if they're wanting to print something. So what we tested was actually swapping that out with an SMS button, where it uses the SMS protocol to actually open the behavior on either Android or iOS, whatever the device is, and it will add the URL of that particular story into the SMS, and then they can send it with their friends. So it's a nice way to add some additional engagement there. So this one is something that I'm really excited about. This is a new block that is available that will actually do live updates without the user actually refreshing the screen. So what happens is the user will be, looking at the page, and let's say you posted a new item within, and I kind of tested it, maybe it's less than about a minute. It will actually, this particular block does a kind of a ping every several minutes, and then it will find new content that is available inside of that particular block. So it has to obviously meet the block query rules of that particular block. And then if new content is available, there'll be a little button that shows up that says one new item or two new items, whatever is available. And then the user clicks on that and the new items will load in terms of, they'll load on into that block. Obviously, we didn't want them to automatically load because we don't want the new content to change what they're reading at the time. So if they're actually reading the block, you don't want to load a new thing in there and then it pushes everything down and then it's confusing, so users hate that. But this will actually be a small little red button that just says, 2 new updates available, and then they can click on that when they want to see that and be able to read the new article. So it's a really great way to, if you have a situation where you're doing kind of coverage throughout the morning, or there's a court case, or you're doing live coverage at an event and you might want to post multiple articles throughout the day covering that same topic, this is a way you can do that, and again have that refresh happen on the page automatically, and the user can be notified of that new content. So it works great on mobile as well, that they've got that page up on the mobile, and then it comes up with a little button that says that new content is available. So definitely something to check out. It's in the card updates block, and it's a new option that you have to turn on inside the block, because we don't want to have all the blocks, doing refreshes if there's no content available. So that's something that you turn on, and then it will ping the site to see if there's new content available. So it's a really awesome new feature. We also have a new kind of a revamp of an existing block. It was called the utility, I think, social networks block, and now it's just called social links. And this creates, and you can kind of see here in the picture to the right, it creates a little widget that allows you to showcase the various social networks that you're involved in, whatever page you have set up on those places. Previously, we had a lot of the different social networks available: Twitter, Facebook, Google+, etc. And we've added in several new ones. So if you happen to have those, this is a great place to add those. It now comes with Reddit and Vimeo, but then it also adds a couple of buttons that you can use for just different ways to get our content or different ways to connect with us. We have an RSS button, an email button, a button that will lead you to the iOS App Store and the Android App Store, OTT, Alexa, and Livestream. So It's something where, depending on the different types of platforms that you support, you can now advertise those to your end users and let them know that you're available on those various platforms. It is possible to create multiple versions of this block on the site. So it's possible that maybe you want to have some of your social networks at the top of the page, but you want to have a more detailed list of all of them down below, or maybe you want to include the apps in their own block and then put those in the rail just to advertise that you have a new app available, and here's a link to our iOS and here's a link to our Android. So that's something that you can do multiple versions of those and include them at various places throughout the site. And also note that there's a couple of different design options when you set this block up. You can put them in kind of a square background or a circle background, or just the icons like I have here. So there's kind of different kinds of displays that you can use on the site as well. So anybody who's launching our new Now app, if you're signing up for any of those new services we have, it's a great way to market those on your site when you launch that new app. And speaking of which, I will pass it over to Susan to talk about some new improvements that we're having on our OTT platform.
Thanks, Christine. So this is probably our biggest design update we've had to our OTT platforms, and it will take me the shortest time to talk about in this webinar. We wanted to really kind of create a new UI that features a Netflix-like experience. There's some examples on the right-hand side of your screen there. We're always trying to improve audience engagement as well as increase revenue opportunities on all of our product lines, not excluding OTT. So we really feel like this experience accomplished that. So we wanted to be able to expose more video content with less interaction with remote controls, which is how you engage with the OTT products. So just to kind of run over some of the things this new UI does is it allows you to see and feature a live screen, your latest clips from customizable categories like news on demand or weather. You can pull in any kind of latest clips that you have. We also included, for your live stream, we included a program guide. So when people actually do launch your channel, they know exactly what they can expect on the live stream, know what's coming up, and know what they can plan for. So we also have below the program guide, we have your VOD categories where, and what we've done here is we've taken them from 4 clicks to actually get to a piece of video, which is what you see there, which is 1 click away before an actual video launches. So we really feel like this is going to bring a lot of exposure to your video on demand categories, increase engagement, and have a huge impact on revenue as those screen views increase. We are planning on rolling this out probably beginning next week. So y'all can look for that in the store. KSAT from San Antonio will be the first app live in the store. So we encourage you to download that if you are a current customer or interested in OTT to kind of get the overall experience from the new UI. Christine, I'll hand it back to you.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, this is a great update, and like she said, you can see the live stream right here, and then here's the program guide, and then the various specific videos down below. I think that looks great. So a couple more things that we wanted to talk about. We had a major software release go out in the last couple of weeks that added some really great new functionality that I'm going to take just a minute to talk about. First off, we have some new updates in our Blocks Go mobile interface. As we've talked about in previous webinars, we're actually spending a lot of time working on the new interface and adding additional functionality to that interface to make it better and better, and something where, again, reporters in the wild can be, updating things on their phone. We have a lot of people now that actually have a significant number of their reporters doing kind of in the field updates and in the field reports, where from their, either from their computer or from their phone, they're actually taking pictures, taking videos, creating a small story or a major story, using the smartphone dictate capabilities to actually dictate the article into the page, and then post the photos directly from your phone. There's a ton of you know, it's the future that we're living in, where you have this amazing device that you can do all this stuff in the field with this amazing device, and then just upload those directly into the Blocks interface. So it's really powerful. A couple of the things that we added some capabilities to do some new fields within the Blocks editor. You can do like a hammer headline, various flags are supported. You can search all of the content that's available in Blocks CMS, and edit anything that you have access to. So again, if you're in the grocery store and somebody, you know, sends you a text message that there's a typo or some kind of problem or some kind of update that you want to make to an article, you don't have to rush into the office to go make that change. You can literally do that from within the Blocks Go interface. You just click on search articles, you find that article, and then you're able to make updates to it on the fly. So it's a lot of great functionality that is available there. Another thing that we have launched recently is a new asset type called the file asset. And what this asset does is it kind of consolidates some of the other asset types that we had available previously for things like PDFs or zip files or SWF files. So all those types of alternative binary file types that that you normally would do with the specific asset type is now kind of consolidated into the new file type. And essentially, whenever you use the new file asset for that same type of use case, like a PDF ad, it actually shows up the same way that a PDF used to show. There's not a lot of differences between how it acts or how it functions depending on the type of file you upload into it. So it essentially acts the same. We look at the MIME type of the actual file that was uploaded to determine what type of file it is, and then we display it in the correct way. What we're currently, we have the file asset type available, and we still have the other types of assets available. In the future, we're going to be consolidating them. So there will be an automatic process where we will convert the previous assets into the new file type. And then from that point forward, just the new file type will be available. You won't have to do anything with this. It will be an automatic process. Any kind of block or anything that was created, you know, just to show PDF assets, for example, those will automatically be converted to show the file asset with a PDF MIME type. So it's kind of like a subtype that you can add into your query rules to still get specifically zip files or PDF assets if you have a situation where you're doing that. So it's, again, kind of a consolidation of different asset types there, just to make things more efficient in the admin and to make it kind of less confusing to editors who are trying to kind of post different types of content. So that is available now, and like I said, in the future, we will be consolidating those different asset types into the file asset type. Another thing that I'm sure everybody has figured out by now is that the user account management has moved from the settings area into the community area. We have a new application specifically dedicated to user accounts. In there, there's been a couple of new functionality added as part of that, where you can now search, for example, for different user groups, which you could not do easily before. Now you can actually search for those things. But they are in their new application in the community menu, and we will be adding in additional functionality as we go forward now that it's its own application. So if you need to find that, it is now available in the community menu. So the next thing to talk about very quickly is we actually added a new workflow option that allows you at a certain stage in a workflow process to reset the date of an asset. This is something that was requested by several people on our community board, and we kind of had a discussion about what would happen and how we would solve this particular problem. And we talked about a possible solution, and we built it. So this is actually now available today. Essentially what happens is that for a reporter will create their story, and they create it on March 1st, and they might work on it for a couple of days, and then it goes into the editing process on March 10th, and then it's published on March 11th. Well, if nobody actually goes in and changes the start date, then the start date for that particular story will still be March 1st when they first created it. So in that kind of scenario where that's happening, if you're using the workflow tools, you can actually say at the point where that asset is web ready and it's ready to go online live, you can click a button and say, for this phase in the workflow, reset my date for this article to now. So whenever the workflow changes over at that particular point and you're saying that this is now web ready, for example, you can, in that workflow stage, click the reset date, and it will reset at that particular point in time. So I think that would be a great new feature. I will note that this is available on the hosted side for those of you using Total CMS with the appliance. It will be out in a couple of months when this particular version gets onto the appliances. And I know that this use case will be even more relevant for those people who are using the appliances. So again, I think it's a great kind of new efficiency that will be available that will help people out using workflows. And the last thing, just really quickly, in terms of, again, efficiency and how you can engage with users, we have a new option that will now track geolocation tags and send that information to our IQ Engage program that kind of tracks data and behaviors of users on the front end. And so in theory, this would allow you to add geolocation tags to a specific group of stories that are in the Crown Point area, for example, and then somebody reading lots of different Crown Point articles will be flagged as a Crown Point reader, and then that allows you to target additional features or promote additional content to that user based on the types of content that they read. So this isn't related to where they exist in physical space, like in terms of their IP address or wherever they might be reading from. This is more related to the types of content that they read. So they might be in Florida, but they're reading all the Crown Point articles, so it flags them as somebody who's interested in Crown Point information. So it's a great way to, again, target and kind of capture information and signals from those users. So a couple other quick things related to security and performance. We are always looking for new ways to improve speed in ways that don't impact that it isn't something that you have to turn on or fix or change on your site. Just ways that we can more efficiently load JavaScript or more efficiently create images that are perfect size for the environment. And we've made several updates recently that are helping with things. Firstly, one of the things that we're actually rolling out in the next couple of weeks is we currently have something we call like smart sizes, or where essentially the system automatically creates a correct size image based on the area or the size that the image is being shown at this point in time, based on the region that it's in and based on the device where it's being shown. So in mobile, for example, it'll create a 300 pixel image. Even though you uploaded a 1200 pixel image, it automatically on the fly will create a 300 pixel image to show that correct size on mobile. So it's a really great feature. The new thing that we're adding, though, is for custom images that you uploaded to either a URL map custom property or to a custom property on a block, that will now be optimized as well. So previously, if you had a block where you were uploading, e-edition front pages or magazine covers or things like that, those magazine covers had to be saved at a specific size because it showed it at real size because it didn't do smart sizing in those particular instances. But once this feature goes out in the next week or so, those will be automatically smart sized. And if you did have a situation where you had large images because of your logo or because of magazine covers, etc., those will automatically be fixed, and your site actually might, your site speed might actually improve. So it's a great new feature. Another quick thing we mentioned previously that we have this is an announcement that was made in our Blocks admin panel, that for those of you using the app directory, we are upgrading the PHP version that runs in the app directory to PHP 7. So if you are using any kind of PHP programming or anything that interfaces with PHP and a database in the app directory, then that's something that you might want to look at, and you can look in the Blocks dashboard and find out more information about that. The other thing I'll just mention quickly is that Google Maps in the last couple of months has changed their API, that they now require an API key when you enter that, and some people have asked us about if they had a situation where it said, if you're the owner of this site, you must enter the API key or something like that. And that's something that Google has changed recently. We had to update our code in order to change that so that you have to enter the API key, and there's some, that's specific to each individual site. Unfortunately, there's nothing that we can do to necessarily change that integration. It's just something that Google changed in terms of their policies. We are looking at ways to both improve that and or maybe switch to something that will be easier to work with. But I did want to mention that that's something to check out. If you haven't looked at that yet, that's something to look to see whether or not you're using the API key already for that. And then just very quickly to end this slide, Phil's going to talk a little bit about some recent data privacy changes and updates.
Yeah, these are more reminders. We have already announced a lot of this stuff, and you can always go back to TownNews, our website, to kind of find out more information, more in detail. But I can kind of quickly cover end-of-life notice for user fields. We took an internal data audit and what kind of user fields we're currently collecting on your behalf, let's say. But like, these are social media-like fields, like favorite quotes, favorite books. These are fields that we don't necessarily that we felt like are rarely used, obviously with data kind of backing that up, but are also personal data fields that we probably shouldn't be harboring or keeping or storing on your behalf, or keeping those kinds of fields. So we are, in templates anyway, we have removed those from the user dashboard, and that was more or less a net to see what would happen if we did. And right now, no users, it appears, have been affected by that, but a subsequent release in software will actually purge the data that we currently store for those fields. Again, this is more of a data privacy kind of overview, or a look at what kind of items we're collecting and currently have that are either not used or rarely used or being misused. But in this case, a lot of these fields that we're talking about are not used or rarely used. So, and then on top of that, many of you are probably already aware of, due to European law, on May 24th, 2018, we began actively blocking European traffic or traffic that we've determined as coming from European countries as part of European Economic Area, or EU. But we've also, later on after that, had actually a subsequent release to allow more granularity, more configuration into allowing those users to come to the articles and read those articles. But there is a few caveats in that we are applying what we call a wrapper mode. So certain items like paid recommendations by us are block subscription metering only. Comments like discuss Facebook commenting, or even the weather radar widget. These are items that we've kind of taken an internal look at to determine that these are either collecting information or storing data based on these widgets loading on your site currently, so we can't load those for those European users. So this wrapper mode blocks those items from loading on your site, even with this wrapper mode. But again, this is only specifically European traffic. So what I would encourage you to do is take a look at your site, seek legal advice of what kind of third parties you're currently working with, update your terms of use to reflect your personal data usage, and then contact sales to talk about applying this wrapper mode, allowing access to those European users to come to your site now. But again, yeah, just contact your sales regional to talk about that more in depth if you would like. And a lot of this information is currently available in TownNews as well.
Yep, yeah, and I know we covered a ton of stuff in this update, and we kind of went really fast on a lot of this, but all of this is available through our release notes and in our dashboard. So if you aren't seeing those now, and this stuff is news to you, then that's definitely something you should look at signing up for, because we put out a lot of information through that channel. So I think that's it.
All right, questions? Thank you very much, everyone. So, are the creative templates a self-serve feature for businesses and advertisers?
No, these are something that you would have to work with and get creative for and load into your Google Ad Manager or previously DFP specifically. It's not anything that any one user can kind of create and submit themselves.
Okay, so who do they need to call? Customer service? Customer support?
So, okay, I'm thinking of more or less from your perspective. If you wanted a creative template or wanted to launch a creative template, you can certainly contact customer support, but we also have lots of documentation on how to do this specifically with the Google Ad Manager or previously DFP on our help site. So first, I would encourage you to go to help site, look at our creative templates, and look at the instructions to set those up. And then if you have any other questions, contact customer support.
If I can add one thing to that, just to for more technical people that might be on the call, the thing that we did that's really interesting with the creative templates is the creative template itself is always going to be hosted in your DSP, but and formerly that meant that we couldn't update it or make bug fixes or add additional features to it, that sort of thing. So we actually did something very innovative, I feel, that we created essentially like a container, and then you upload the container into your DSP, but it essentially, all of the code itself that basically makes the creative template itself is on the front end templates that are part of the Flex design. So we actually, if there's a problem with, you know, how the thing refreshes or how a YouTube video displays as part of a reveal ad or whatever, those are things that we can actually update on the fly, and we'll be able to affect those people that are using this method. So it's actually a great way to have kind of the best of both worlds, that you're using those creative templates in your DSP instance, but we can actually help manage those and support them over time. So it's a good way to implement those creative templates where we can still kind of do the work and support on those.
Great point.
Bloxgo is a mobile web, right? Not an app that they have to download?
Correct. It is a mobile website. When you log into the standard, admin.townnews.com from your phone, it'll automatically direct you to the Bloxgo interface.
Comment, reset date sounds awesome. Can't wait to get a look at it. Thanks for implementing this request.
Awesome.
Question, can we backdate stories?
Yeah, I mean, you could put the start date as, a time in the past, and then that will show up as the start date of that article.
So for the reset date workflow, can they put a past date?
So you can't put a past date for the reset date part. It always does now. You could put a past date for the start date and then use the reset date to set it to now if you wanted to. But reset date is always now. Whenever it switches into that workflow mode. And again, this is set at the stage of the workflow. So if you have a workflow that has 5, stages in it, then you set the reset date to the 5th stage. At that point, it will reset. When it hits that phase, it will reset the start date to that point in time.
Can we reset the date with the click of a button without setting it in the workflow? You just change the start date, wouldn't you?
You could change the start date, yeah. But the main thing here is that, I'm sure a lot of people do that now, where the former way that you would handle this is that the reporter created an article, it would go through the workflow, and at the point where it goes online, someone needs to remember to reset the date by, very easily kind of clicking on the date area to reset the date to now manually, and that is kind of the former way to do it. It's just a matter of somebody has to make sure to do that as part of the process, and that's the thing that is annoying to some people is, having to remember to create steps or whatever. So this way it will be automatic.
Yeah, after that workflow step 5 is passed, you could go back in step 6 and backdate it after the fact though, right? Like if your workflow resets it, you can still change the date.
Yes, yes.
Where do I find some of those blocks and cards? They aren't available on my site.
So whenever we release a new block, that is something where we're basically making a new block type available or a block template available. You still have to go into the block library and create a new block that uses that template, if that makes sense. So it might not be already existing in your block library, but you just essentially go to new and then content block, and then you would find, in this case, maybe search for the word modular, and you would find the new modular block, and then you can create a new block using that block design or that block template. And that's something that our customer support staff could, if that makes no sense to you what I just said, you could contact our customer support staff and they can kind of walk you through that process and give you more details there.
There's some questions around the reset date or backdating. So if we upload a big group of articles, but we don't want it to look like they all published today, how do we go back and change all the dates?
So, I mean, most likely for that type of scenario, this probably wouldn't help because, again, this is specifically trying to fix the problem where you're creating the article in the past and then you publish it a week later and the date of the article still says, oh, it was published on February 1st, but really it was February 11th or whatever. I would say that in terms of, changing dates of things, there is a batch edit functionality where you can change dates. So if you were going to set them all to the same start time in the past, you could do that. But to stagger them out, that would essentially be a manual function where you go into that specific article and set that manually into the past.
Okay. Is the reset date workflow optional? Like, do I have to sign up for it?
Correct. Yes, it is optional. Workflows themselves are optional, and they're especially for people who are just, not using our total CMS appliance feature or system. A lot of people that are just doing it on in terms of the hosted side of it aren't necessarily using workflows. So just using workflows themselves is something that is optional, but it is a really cool feature. So that's something that if you haven't looked at that before, that's something that you can have your articles start out in no publish mode and then go through a review process, and then when they go through that review process, at the end of the process, they automatically go live, and that way you can kind of better control when things go live on your site and make sure that they go through an editor, etc. So there's a lot of cool things like that that you can do with workflows, and you can set up different workflows based on the type of processes that you want to have in your organization. But the reset date is something that is just a checkbox within each of those workflows, that if you want to use that feature, you check the box, and then that thing happens during that phase of that workflow.
Great. All right, and then the last question, how do I sign up for release note email update?
Funny that you asked.
That is a great question. Go to our website, TownNews.com, and on the news page, you'll see a way to sign up for all of our newsletters. And it's down there towards the bottom. There you go. Yes. So you can sign up for release notes there. You can also sign up for our newsletters and get other information. Oh, we had another question. Can we split a news story with times of the day as the incidental break? Would that be the update time?
Yeah, so I think that what you're saying is to have a single article, but within that article have kind of like updates posted based on time, I think. And if I kind of got what you're saying there, one thing that I would look at is we do have a content, it's called related content, and we do have an update related content type where so you post a story and it says, hey everyone, stay tuned, we're watching the trial of the murderer and we're waiting to secure a verdict. And then when you get a verdict, then you can post a related content update notice, which kind of shows up at the top, and then it has like a little headline where you can type in the timestamp. And then, you might have 3 more updates as, news breaks on that particular topic, and you can keep adding updates to the top of the page. So that's one way to do that. But in terms of that being related to the start date, it wouldn't be related. It would still be something that you would do a different way.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for the questions. For all of the documentation that we've mentioned, you can go to help.blockcms.com. You can call our 1-800 number for support, 1-800-293-9576, or visit support.townnews.com. Our partner community is a great way to share ideas, find out how other people are implementing these new things, get some insider scoop from people who are using it at community.townnews.com. To check on the status of our service and servers, go to townnews.status.ao. You can follow us on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, or YouTube. And as I mentioned before, sign up for one of our many newsletters. With that, I think that's all I had.
That's great.
Thank you, everyone, for coming, and have a great November.